I was just telling you before we got started, I try and vary the questions a little bit, but I'm always going to ask, can we get the story of the lanyards?
The story of the lanyards. Yeah. So I went to my first conference in 2016. It was in a library, back room behind a back room behind a hidden wall. But then when COVID happened, and COVID then came off in 2021, there was a very, very big push to have as many conferences as possible in as short amount of time to catch up. So there was 5 conferences going on at once in New York, and it just happened.
You didn't want to have to figure out which badge was which.
Exactly, because especially going through different buildings, you didn't know where you were going to be next, who you're going to be meeting with, and so it just became easier.
You could probably just walk into any crypto conference on the planet with all of these and say it's in there somewhere.
I probably could, but what's really awesome is not having that dick mentality.
Right.
I still actually pay for maybe 75% of my tickets.
That's great. So Manifest AI, could you give us the background on it? What's your 30-second elevator pitch about what Manifest is and what you all do?
So the 30-second elevator pitch is we are sovereign compute. Not to be confused with decentralized compute, because we are an enterprise solution. We are foundational. We run 17 data centers currently around the world. And so that is what enterprise needs. We run SOC 2 ISO compliant facilities. We're even, our utility token is MiCA certified. So as we see blockchain becoming the next thing, everyone coming to blockchain, enterprise and regulation doesn't allow for their data to run through Tom, Dick, or Harry's do-it-yourself node operator. And that, don't worry, that is a huge part of how blockchain grows and, is going to expand, especially on the decentralized compute side of things and decentralized AI, but needing to be able to train models where your terms and services, like with Google, is they own it and control it, and you just have access to it. We believe in the sovereignty of your data and the privacy of it. We don't index, and so you own your SEC and control it.
You, a minute ago, made a distinction between decentralization and sovereignty. Let's talk about that for a minute. I think the two terms often get conflated, that decentralization is sovereignty and that sovereignty is decentralization. Where do you see the distinction, and how does that play into how you've built Manifest?
So a lot of that it's verbiage, but in action at the base layer. So decentralized just means distributed in some aspects. And so we have distributed data centers. We have Australia, Singapore, Japan, Germany, UK. We have 11 across North America, 1 in Canada, or as I jokingly like to say, 12 in US. We'll get to the 50s first, So, but one of the really fun things in that is ownership. And so, as I was saying earlier, we see companies and corporations, they have private data, your personal health information. It might be encrypted to the nth degree, but if it's captured by someone else, that's still a violation due to some regulation that is still 100% legit and should be in place.
What sort of ownership do the users actually have? So give us an example of what like a customer might look like from Manifest, and what sort of like ownership and sovereignty they maintain over their data and their assets.
So where we run is we are not deploying software on the hardware. So it is we're running bare metal, Kubernetes, and storage, direct API access to their specific hardware, ZK proofing that it is real hardware, that they're getting exactly what they're paying for. And it's their closed source stack, whether they're running a VM on it or they're running something else, they know that it is their execution environment. And so at the hardware level, we're still, and at the software level, we're still a very dev heavy protocol. We're not DigitalOcean where anyone can just go click and deploy a node for a weekend. We're a B2B solution. So we have a lot of partners that have consumer facing front ends, and we're just providing that sovereign private compute on the back end. Projects that that are within our ecosystem, stuff like Morpheus, Think Agents. Venice is also a partner of ours. as well as a huge list of projects. Our orchestrator agent company, Gember AI, works on the data flow, whether it needs to be private or public. So we can utilize other networks. Like one of our really big partners is Render. And everything that Render has been doing is they're just going leaps and bounds. But when you're trying to figure out what kind of data you need to, how it needs to, the inference, the compute needs to be done on it. Well, if you're just trying to take a public document like tax regulation and turn it into machine readable JSON, that can be done on an open compute network, distributed through the entire Render network, done instantaneously, really quick. If it's private data that can do a little bit more, then an agent will decide or know that it needs to be done privately. And so protecting IP, protecting like script writing or any code generation and everything like that. Because what a lot of people forget about with OpenAI is there's two databases where OpenAI information is stored. One, the black box of OpenAI. Every time you ask a question, get a response, it feeds the beast of Sam Altman and OpenAI. And now, since May, when OpenAI lost the court case to the New York Times, all data is now stored, all outputs and user requester IP is stored, as I like to say, in a public database, aka a federal database. But even
delete or private chat, it's all there.
Is for the next 5 years. Whether you're asking about for a glibby picture, you're asking about your toes, or what day of the week it is, what the response output is, and who the IP of the requester of it. And so that's something that open source, and what we use is a POA module, proof of authority, where our data layer is Cosmos app chain. And that's just data centers talking to each other. So we're not a retail chain, we're data and privacy of that. And Cosmos really allows for that. We've been building for 5 years, so it's sort of awesome.
So there's different levels of privacy. Let's just say I'm using Venice or Morpheus, which I do. I love what they're doing. What can you all see? Obviously, the compute is happening somewhere. Are you able to see what tokens were input and what tokens were output, and not link it to a customer?
Can't see any of that.
You can't see any
because it's not our tech stack. So like we can't, data coming in, knowing that some data came in and some data came out just because of electricity usage. What that is, what it's going to be, don't know, don't care.
You can just see packets going in and out. It's all
just know that data is transferring, because it's the little flashing lights on every server, knowing that it's in use. That's about it on our end. And so that's where we work really heavy on the proof of authority side. And so it's one of those things where we have over $50 million worth of hardware. We're a Dell technology partner. Yeah, Dell gives that out to a lot of people, but not a lot in Web3. We're actually we're their entry point into Web3, working with a lot of different labs that are building DeepIn protocols and hardware devices, where Dell wants to see, they have Dell interest in mind. Will it move the needle for them? But then take that out of the assembly line of the backyard mad scientist basement and assembly line that, and anyone can deploy via Dell Enterprise SKU. And that's how Web 2 institutional can partake into Web 3 at the same time.
So it's very familiar to people. Got it. Before we got up here, you mentioned something pretty cool about your bunkers, your underground facilities. Can we talk about that for a minute?
So we have 17 facilities that are active right now. We have 2 facilities, Patmos and Bedrock. They are 1970s Cold War telecom buildings, subterranean, so they are EMP resistant. And shielded telecom fibers out. One of the really easy things that you can say about them, and they're nuke proof. And so we have a lot of interest from a lot of chains that are wanting to have some of their node infrastructure in these facilities. We have Web 2 companies as well. And so we have Web 3 companies where, the long word of what we're saying we're doing is we're decentralizing centralized decentralization. And that comes from the aspect of look at Ethereum. Anywhere, depending on what numbers you're looking at, anywhere from 38% to 57% of Ethereum nodes are run by AWS. AWS could get an order from a country tomorrow saying, no Web3 stuff. And if that entire region goes down, like we've seen happen before, we see entire node structures just disappear.
That's good. So getting close to the end here, could you tell us a little bit about, do you have a token? Do you plan to launch one? What's that look like? And how can folks get involved? I know you talk a lot about the B2B side of things. Is there any plans for B2C, or is there any way that, people watching at home or in the audience today can get involved with Manifest?
Yeah, so like I said, we've been around for about 5 years now. We did a seed round in 23, and then we ran a node program. We have about $50 million worth of hardware. We allow that to grow in phases because we don't want to oversaturate. We're not hyper scaling. So our discounts that we give on services is because we're giving a customer exactly what they need in hardware, not what we want to give them and not the markup to it. So we're on average around 30 to 40% discount over AWS. Our token program, NFX, is where how we work is it's a utility OTC token right now. We'll be going public, yes. But the way it works is we do token swaps, whether MOU or with their pre-TGE or post-TGE, we're getting inference and compute to projects. So we'll take a part of their token supply, give them the same dollar value of MFX, and then they burn MFX to pay for compute. So we take cash off the table. Right now, we have about $540 million worth of tokens under assets. And so I run our index fund, MFX. But the different ways users, community members, and people can get involved, we do have our node program waitlist if they want to get involved in that. And we do have OTC token deals. And I know we're going to be coming up on the deal desk soon as well.
That's right. DNA deal desk.
The DNA deal desk, not the DNA house deal desk.
We are more than DNA house.
We are. DNA has been an amazing partner, but we see huge partnerships and being able to provide infrastructure and compute, because what we're told by the mass media is that there is a huge GPU shortage. Data centers you can't find any. Electricity is through the roof, and it's just going to cost you an arm and a leg. That's actually not true. NVIDIA and OpenAI is doing this whole De Beers structure where they're saying that they are limiting it. It's not the truth, especially in a open source manner.
Well, Taco, thank you so much. I can just tell every time I talk to you how passionate you are about this and how much you care about it. And we love what you're building and excited to be here with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Love being part of DNA.
Take care.